What up, YouTube? It's your man, Beefy Big Guns. We out here! Whoo! Breathe it in. What are we doing? We're picking the last of the Roma tomatoes right back here. Getting those out of the way. Finally, this will be the last pick, I think, on them. And we're going to can some tomato sauce. Preservation methods are huge when you are getting these big crops like this in the middle of the year. You got to do something with them, and you can't eat them this fast. I mean, it's just impossible. So what we'd like to do is get all these tomatoes put together and make big pots of spaghetti sauce. And the spaghetti sauce is of high quality, we think. I mean, it's definitely not bad to eat. I notice it doesn't stain the inside of my Tupperware drawers like the stuff from the store does. I like that. But you're digging these Roma tomatoes like this, and these aren't big ones, but they are extremely tasty, and they're definitely ripe. We usually try to use sauce tomatoes in our tomato sauce because they have less water in them, but that's not to say that we only use those, because that's simply not true. We use plenty of other different kinds of tomatoes, and the real reason why I'm kind of pushing this forward today, when it's not ideal to do so, is that it's time for it. We got a lot of juicy tomatoes coming on, and big ones, and so we'll be boiling a little extra water out today, but we are over the capacity of where we can actually keep up with what's going on. So it's hot today. I'm sweating from doing it. It is what it is. I got a full bucket of tomatoes and about 10 minutes of picking. That's a huge bucket. And it's time to go in and get these things cleaned up. The tomatoes are in the sink, and I got a lot of cleaning and coring to do to get them into the pot. But it's all part of the process. There's more tomatoes out there. This is what we had inside just sitting around. This is what we now have from the outside. You got to look for stuff like this on the tomatoes. Here's a Roma I let go a little long. I trim stuff like that off before I throw it in the pot, but I'll get a half a tomato out of that yet. It all adds up. So making sure the dirt's off each one and core them out, cut them up. I don't really worry about getting my cut right on the tomatoes right away. I just get them open so the juice can start leaking. I use nothing to get the skins off. I don't know if that affects the taste. It might. I haven't ever researched that. But we like the taste of our tomato sauce, so it's kind of irrelevant. To get back to the point, I use an immersion blender to get this really smoothed out after it's cooked down for a while. And so that's what I'll be doing. So I don't really worry about getting a fine chop onto my tomatoes. I just get them in the pot and let the heat start doing the work. All right, squad. Went out and did the second auxiliary picking of tomatoes. I got all the tomatoes in that I want. So now I started adding other things like onions, garlic, parsley, oregano. I'm also going to add chanterelle mushrooms to this. And I got these dried from one of my previous adventures. And man, it's unbelievable how much these things still smell like fruit. So, the thing about drying these mushrooms is that I did not rinse them in any way, shape, or form. So they're still dirty little buggers. So as I put the water on them, I'm going to get out a toothbrush and start scrubbing these things down, working that dirt loose. And then we'll throw those in and get them simmering in with the other stuff. We got a lot of work to go. We got a lot of water to get off the tomatoes yet. We got a lot of scum to take off of the top of that pot. I've also got to put sugar in there, and I'm going to make this sauce sweet on purpose. And so I'm kind of going sweet load the whole time. Oregano, parsley are the herbs that I put in. And chanterelles will go in, sugar will go in, and then we'll start tasting it. I think it's going to be really good. It smells great already. And there's going to be a lot of it, which is nice. So I want to do something different than what we've been doing, because we got some more sour and bold sauces. It's really smart to mix them up. So I'm going to get these chanterelles soaking and get the toothbrush going, and we'll go from there. The chanterelles are in and the sauce is coming together. I'm going to give those a stir down and let them start stewing. Just wanted to show that before they got in there. Smells great in here right now, that's for sure. Alright fam, so a lot of time has transpired. I started this sauce in the pot about 10 a.m. It's now 8 p.m. A lot's happened since we started at 10 a.m. We've put sugar in it. I put a cup in this sauce when it was at about 12 liters on the side. It's now reduced down to about 10 liters. I put 2 small cans of tomato paste in it, the little ones. I've hit it with the immersion blender, and this is what we got. It's really smooth. I tried to make a sweet sauce and it worked. The cup of sugar definitely adds a sweetness right to the front of it, but I also kept out the bold flavors like rosemary and sage, and just went with the brighter flavors that go into Italian food. Quite frankly, after I tasted this sauce, I was really happy with it, and that's rare for me on my spaghetti sauces. This is still a little watery for where I'd like to have it at for a final product, but that's okay to do. I'm going to can it, and then I'm going to reheat it eventually on a stovetop or in a lasagna or whatever, and we'll lose some of that additional moisture out of it at that point. So this is really close to being ready to can for me, and that's a whole nother part of the procedure. So we're going to get into that right now. I still think that the first part of canning is always cleaning the jars. So I'm going to clean 8, maybe 10 quarts, and then we'll check back in. You should always follow the ball guidelines, but this is how we do it. After that, we're going to take this funnel right here and start loading up the sauce into these jars. And while all that's happening, we need to get a little bath of water going that's warm and put the caps in there. Don't boil the caps in there. You just want to like warm them lightly to activate the glue. This is a much less demanding process with the pressure canner right here, right now, because we're able to be less sanitary like this. So, and we don't have to add the extra amount of acid into the tomato sauce, which for me imparts just a really negative taste into it. Just, it's like sometimes tomato sauces are already sour to begin with, and then you add this extra citric acid into it to get the acid levels to drop, actually, if you're using the pH scale, and it just tastes terrible in my opinion. You can't ever get rid of how that just, it's sour. So always pressure canner. They're about $100 usually for, you know, a normal model. I'm sure you can buy more expensive ones. We don't see the need for that. We know how to use this one and it works really well. But so now we're going to be loading up jars for a minute. Make sure you give your sauce a good stir before you do this. Really get it worked up. And then you're just going to hit them in one after the other. With pressure canning, the ingredients inside of the can really come up. So you got to make sure, especially with pressure canning, in our opinion, that you leave 1 inch or more. You do more of headspace on this ring, on this upper edge. You got to wipe it down. If it has food contents on it, it's going to affect your seal. It won't allow it to seal. That's exactly what you don't want to do. Take a little paper towel with vinegar on it and wipe that whole upper edge. I'm going to fill 8 jars and I'll be back. Alright fam, it's like a sauna in here. Ew. That water's boiling. Good stuff. These jars are cleaned off. Good stuff. I put the vinegar over the top of the jars. We still have a lot of sauce. So I've officially decided that I'm doing 2 batches tonight. Very simple. The pressure canner cuts the time in half on how much you gotta boil it. It's ridiculous. So I microwaved some water, got it really hot, put the caps in there. Now we gotta fit them onto these hot jars and get them into the pressure boiler. After all the caps are placed on top of the clean jars, you spin them down just tight enough that they connect. You don't screw them down tight. You gotta let air come out of them. That's what sterilizes everything. Pressure canner's rolling hard. We're gonna set these jars in here with our little tongues. A couple rules on this. Keep them off the side and keep them from touching inside. I think that both of those are because these things kind of rattle around in there a little bit and they get wild as hell. But that's how we like it. I don't know what heaven smells like, but my guess would be chanterelle sweet sauce. Alright, so that's 6 in. And you're going to get steamed out here, but that's okay. Make sure they're not touching the side. Make sure that they're not touching each other. The next step is to close the pressure canner without the weight on it and let it steam through for about 10 minutes. Then after that, we're going to put the weight on and get up above 10 pounds of pressure, start the clock, boil it above 10 pounds for 20 minutes, and then we'll depressurize the canner. Alright guys, when I'm talking about steaming out, that's what I'm talking about. Kind of hard to see, I know, there it is. But that little hole right there has been doing that for 10 full minutes. It's just, the clock just turned now. So now what we're going to do is apply this weight. And this is going to bring the pressure up. That pressure is going to start rising pretty quick. So this is an electric stove, so I turned it down to about 6 now. But you can see that pressure is already rising. We want to get that over 10, but you don't want to get it, you know, all the way up to 15. Some will usually run up somewhere between 10 and 12, and you're going to have to put in some time on that. Pay attention early on so you know how to hit your marks. But you can see that thing coming up. Once we get it above 10, we will turn the temperature down to about 4. That's our mark on this stove, and we'll monitor it. But we're 20 minutes on for tomato sauce with no acid after we get to 10 pounds, and it's always got to stay above 10 pounds, so you got to be sure not to turn it down too low. There won't be enough pressure to guarantee that you get everything correct. But you can see that pressure's coming up just how we want it. Working perfect. 20 minutes came and went. Slide it off the burner. Don't touch the weight. Don't try to twist it. Just pull it off the heat. And do it as smooth as you can so you don't rattle those jars around in there. And just let it depressurize, and you got to do it. But as you can see, it's depressurizing slowly but surely. After that's done, we'll start the whole process over again and spin the whole wheel. But hopefully we'll get a little footage, little shot of cans popping at the end. And I'll leave it at that, because that is definitely the best part. Canning tomato sauce with your man. We out here. Catch you on the next one.